This is 5G Talent Talk with Carrie Charles, CEO of Broadstaff Talent Solutions. Brought to you by RCR Wireless News and Telecom Careers. Connect at carriecharles.com. And now, here's Carrie Charles.
Hello, I'm Carrie Charles, your host of 5G Talent Talk, and today we're talking about how artificial intelligence will impact the human workforce. I'm so excited today to have with us Rana Gujral. Rana is an entrepreneur, speaker, investor, and CEO of Behavioral Signals. It's an enterprise software company that delivers an AI engine that introduces emotional intelligence into speech recognition technology. Rana has been awarded the Entrepreneur of the Month by CIO Magazine and Top 10 Entrepreneurs to Follow in 2017 by Huffington Post. He was also recently listed in Inc. magazine as an AI entrepreneur to watch. You can find his writing in publications such as Inc., TechCrunch, and Forbes. Rana, thank you so much for joining us today.
Carrie, it's a real pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity.
So tell us about your company, Behavioral Signals.
Absolutely. Thanks again for letting us talk about behavioral signals and for giving me the opportunity to be here on your show. As a deep tech company, we're looking to solve some big problems, and what we're focused on is deducing intelligent and actionable insights from conversations. So if you think about the human communication as a process itself, it's fairly complex, and what it does is it depends on words being spoken as well as the way they're being expressed. And what we do at Behavioral Signals is we excel at distinguishing signals, specifically behavioral signals in speech data with a proprietary deep tech. And what we do is we capture acoustic cues, intonations, and other interaction signals and discover emotions, behaviors, and other insights, even go as far as predict behavioral intent prediction that apply into behavioral business insights. And that's what we do at Behavioral Signals. So, I mean, I could go deeper into it, but very, very high level, if you think about the traditional NLP and voice interaction capabilities that exist in the market today, they largely focus on what is being said. And what we do is we introduce the ability to understand how something is being said in addition to what is being said. So that's a little bit about us.
Very good. Very good. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. There is a lot of buzz surrounding artificial intelligence. What is and what is not AI?
Yeah, that's a fascinating question, isn't it? We hear a lot about AI. We hear it pretty much, ad nauseum nowadays with companies looking to differentiate their capabilities as an AI capability. I think when you think of AI, for the most part, my definition is fairly simple. I think of AI as a capability that allows inanimate systems to do things or have abilities that presently, humans are just better at. And so we're looking to sort of share workload. We're looking to have these systems, whether it's a computer program or it's a machine or it's a voice assistant, do things that currently only humans can do. And as a result, it could be a better aid. It could improve our overall experiences in terms of how we interact with different things. But additionally, it just solves for business challenges that haven't been able to address today with the capabilities in the market. So that's how I think of AI. I mean, but I think of AI, it's really sort of bridging that gap which exists in the software systems and machines from a perspective of this can't be done. This can't be done. You need a human to do this. And so if you can't have somebody, some entity to be able to address those things, that's AI in my definition.
So I'm curious, is machine learning and AI the same thing?
Well, not necessarily. Machine learning is an ability that is fundamental to building an AI capability. right? So machine learning is essentially a science that works off a very typical sort of a learning-based approach in terms of let's predict an outcome, let's define that attributes that lead to that outcome prediction, then measure that outcome and see if that outcome is close to expectations or not, or in other words, it's accurate or not. And if that outcome is inaccurate, then go revise those sort of assumptions around those attributes, or even sort of adjust the weightage around those attributes, or curate the data further to sort of solve for those gaps. And so it's how we learn, right? So when we learn based on data points around us. We have our own life experiences, and we have our own sort of knowledge areas. And so if you're trying to solve a problem as a human, we go about and we combine those abilities and all the data points that we have, and we make an assumption around what the solution needs to be. And oftentimes we're wrong. And this is sort of what you sort of hear about. It's like, failure is a fantastic sort of coach in a way, that the more you fail, the more you learn. And it just works exactly the same in machine learning. So when you're not getting the desired outcomes, you're building a system that learns from it, and it adjusts its attributes, and it works on more accurate set of data sets. And as a result, you create the self-learning engine where the more data you feed in, and the more outcomes it predicts, and more it learns from its failures, the more accurate it becomes. And so it's an ability that eventually leads to capabilities that then gives a software system or a machine an ability that could then be called as artificial intelligence.
You're listening to 5G Talent Talk. I'm Carrie Charles here with Rana Gujral. We're talking about how artificial intelligence is going to impact the human workforce. Rana, many jobs performed by humans today will be eliminated with AI applications. How will the workforce recover from this shift?
I think for the most part, the fear that AI is here to get our jobs and we'll have a significant job loss with AI is somewhat exaggerated. In my opinion, AI is a capability not much unlike, say, the big machines that came in to help in terms of agriculture or production or even sort of product manufacturing. So certainly those things were being done by humans before, but when a machine came in, it enhanced the overall productivity. It make things just sort of better from a overall ecosystem standpoint, where it brought the cost of goods down, and it also enabled other ecosystems to prosper, which weren't possible in the past. But on the downside, there were certain things that certain humans were doing, which were sort of like manually assembling products, which were no longer necessary. And as a result, those humans and that population of the workforce had to be retrained. And so the same thing happened with software systems. And the same things happened with advancements in biomedicine and in other capabilities. And so with that, artificial intelligence is certainly going to take over some of those things that currently we're relying on humans to do. But then that allows those humans and that population of workforce to then start to focus on other possibilities and other work areas that require their attention. And so I personally feel that for the most part, as we see today, the basic ecosystem of AI solutions is largely geared towards not really replacing what humans do, but really helping humans do what they do better. And I don't think that's going to change significantly over the next couple of decades. Beyond that, I think maybe there's a more forward progression in terms of really replacing abilities. But in the near term, I really feel it's more of an augmenting capability, which allows us to do newer things and do things which we do today better, by leveraging some of these new technologies at hand.
So, Rana, you talked about that the workforce needs to be retrained. What can people do to prepare for this? Are companies going to be retraining these people? Do we need to take responsibility for our own futures and start training ourselves? What can we do to prepare?
I think it's a shared responsibility. Certainly, we have as corporations and as companies that have a workforce that might be impacted by newer technologies that we are absorbing and embracing. We have the responsibility to retrain the workforce towards other value-added tasks. But that being said, I think it's always wise to be proactive. It's always wise to sort of look at sort of your core capabilities. I always say, if you're a software programmer, and if you take that as an example, you worked very differently as a programmer, say a decade ago. There were a lot of things which you had to build from scratch. You had to really build the basic tenets of a software system pretty much on your own, because those didn't exist in the market today. And at that point. And so if you've sort of seen how the progression has happened, there's building a software today is more sort of building, assembling building blocks. You have a lot of out-of-box systems that are available to you. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. And so the smarter programmers have taken that ability and actually used that as a position of strength, because now they've been able to really build advanced products versus small fundamental libraries or essential elements of a software system. And that requires a little bit of foresight. You just say, okay, if there are things that I'm doing today that are possible by these technologies that are available to me, does it hurt me or does it help me? Because this is my core science. This is my core domain, and this is my expertise. And so I should be able to best leverage these newer capabilities. And so these newer capabilities are, in a sense, there for me, not against me. They're there to help me do my job better, and there for me to provide a new set of value adds to my audience and to my clients, for the lack of a better word. And so I personally think that it's all in the mindset. And so largely the responsibilities are on us to sort of look at our core set of skills and see how it can be augmented with new technologies at hand. And experiment with them and test those out and try those out and learn from them. And that in turn, as a professional, it allows us to be better at our jobs. Now, that being said, maybe that example doesn't play out for every skill set. And certainly there are certain skill sets which will be impacted. And I think it's it's a shared responsibility there. If there's a certain capability that we feel really will impact a significant portion of the workforce, then I think that there's definitely value add in investing in some training opportunities across the board.
So I agree with you, Rana. It's all in the mindset. And let's talk about that just for a moment. AI seems to be creating anxiety, fear, and uncertainty. Can you put these fears to rest and tell us how will AI help people? How can we see this as a positive instead of a negative? And you've talked a little bit about it, but I want to go into this a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. I think, the one way to see it as a positive is that we will be able to do things which currently have been hard for us to do. So, for example, let's just take an example of applications of AI in, say, health tech. Today, our medical professionals are mired with a lot of paperwork. They have to do it for regulations and from a certain compliance standpoint. And so that precious doctor-patient time is often, spent in feeding that information into a computer system. If you've been to a doctor's office, you've seen the doctor sort of frantically typing on the laptop on the computer system as you're speaking about your symptoms and how you're feeling, and also searching up certain aspects which are essential for that medical professional to make a decision on their diagnosis. And that time could rather be spent in really engaging empathetically with the patient, really trying to understand how the person's feeling and the mental state of mind, not just the symptoms, but really connecting at a more cognitive level with the client. And that is what the promise of medical science has been. And but for us, the busy lives and all the things that we've added to, say, the medical professionals to do things, it's hard to do it. Now, if you have a capability, and so you have certain companies that are working on very advanced scribes, and so these intelligent entities listen to the conversations and aid the medical professional in real time by propping up relevant pieces of information so that the doctor doesn't have to search for it, and also scribing and summarizing the conversation so that the doctor is not spending that time, and that time is better spent engaging with the client. So that's a win-win. I mean, I see that as, is that replacing what a doctor does today? Yes. But those things that are being replaced, the doctor would rather not do to begin with. And if you look at the vast majority of AI applications today, they're in that bucket. They're in that bucket of replacing things that a person or a human is doing today, which a human rather would not do, or is not really the best use of that person's time to begin with. And so if you have an ability to sort of delegate that to an intelligent system, that is a win-win across the board.
I'm Carrie Charles, your host of 5G Talent Talk, here with Rana Gujral, the CEO of Behavioral Signals, and we are discussing how artificial intelligence will impact the human workforce. Rana, can you tell us a little bit more about your area of expertise, behavioral prediction? How will this technology help companies, people, and society as a whole?
Absolutely. So, as I said, our core science is focused around deducing very specialized signals from a voice conversation. The way our science works is we key off on specific aspects of tonality and pitch variance. So rather than focusing on just the words that are being used, we're focused on how those words are being said. And with that, we are able to deduce signals such as emotion signals such as anger, happiness, sadness, and behavioral signals such as engagement, empathy, politeness. And then we combine those capabilities into some advanced prediction engines. So, for example, having an ability to predict if a client's going to pay or not pay, or a debt holder is going to pay or not pay, or a client's going to buy or not buy. But for the most part, what we're doing is we're taking those abilities, and we have a two parallel set of focus areas. The first is to augment human-to-human interactions, and what we do is we deliver new use cases and KPIs that optimize these interactions. So, for example, sales accelerations, first call optimization, real-time feedback for agents, building capabilities that enable behavioral coaching and training, even sort of building specialized audit engines from a compliance and QA standpoint that leverage the core signal detection capabilities and classify a good outcome and a bad outcome. So all those use cases are very, very valuable for businesses. Vast majority of business touch point, it happens through voice conversations, and vast majority of sales happens through phone calls. And so there's a lot of insights that we are simply leaving on the table, for the lack of a better word. We're just simply not doing much with it, and we make that possible. Now, our second parallel focus area for us is to take the dynamics of human-to-human interaction and model that within human-to-machine interactions. So, such as building emotionally and socially aware voice assistants and social robots. This allows us to build capabilities that deliver a completely new user experience. So for example, if you have a voice assistant, or if you have even if you have a robot that is geared towards maybe being a companion, or maybe a aid or a helper for a senior, or a more specialized system, say it could be a helper kiosk or information desk at an airport, virtualized entity at an airport. If you have a use case there where you're conversing with a human, then the goal there is to converse like a human does. So you and I are talking. It's not necessarily just exchanging words. We're also trying to relate to each other, each other's state of mind. We're trying to figure out how the other person's feeling at a moment of time, and is our conversation relatable or not relatable? And that's a natural aspect of a human to relate with a cognitive state of mind. And if we can take that ability and we can build that into an interaction between a human and machine, then that significantly improves that whole dynamic of how people interact with these systems. And so those are our two focus areas, and that's kind of what we're focused on right now.
What a fascinating glimpse into the future, Rana. Before we close, how can we connect with you?
For sure. But the best way would be to go to our webpage. It's www.behavioralsignals.com, which is the behavioral with the U.S. spelling. So it's BEHAVIORAL signals.com. You could also reach out to me on Twitter, my first and the last name, or my webpage, ranagujral.com. Especially if you're a researcher or you're a student who is looking to apply our capabilities in some interesting ways, we do have a developer program. We also have a program that's geared towards academic institutions, and we make our technology available for free to sort of allow for intelligent experimentations around certain sort of problem areas, and be happy to work with you, happy to engage and further that cause. And if you're a business that could benefit, would love to work with you towards some mutually beneficial outcomes.
Rana, it sounds like not only are you building the technology of the future, but you are making a difference as well. That's great.
Thank you, Carrie. I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you, Rana, for joining us today. This has just been wonderful. We really, really appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, Carrie. It's been a real pleasure.
And thank you for listening to this episode of 5G Talent Talk. This podcast has been brought to you by RCR Wireless News, Telecom Careers, and Broadstaff Talent Solutions. I would love to hear from you. You can connect with me at carriecharles.com. And please join me for the next episode of 5G Talent Talk.
You've been listening to 5G Talent Talk with Carrie Charles, CEO of Broadstaff Talent Solutions. Brought to you by RCR Wireless News and Telecom Careers. Connect with Carrie at carriecharles.com.